In this video, we are going to learn about the basics of animation in After Effects. But before we jump into animating in After Effects, we should start by talking a little bit about theories of animation. As you know, animation is the illusion of motion. Traditionally, animation is created by drawing frame by frame. For example, if an animator wants to animate a car that moves from point A to point B, he or she had to draw several images or frames of the car, each with a small distance from the previous one. Of course, when these drawings or frames are played fast enough in sequence, the result is the illusion of motion. In computer animation, things can be much simpler. In most cases, you don't have to draw each individual frame. For example, to animate a car that moves from point A to point B in an animation computer program like After Effects, we just need to define the extremes of motion. In other words, we should define the position of the car at point A and the position of the car at point B. The computer will then automatically fill in between these two positions and animate the object. These extremes of motion are called keyframes. To animate in After Effects, you just need to define the keyframes and the computer will do the rest. So now let's go inside our After Effects project and see how we can do this in After Effects. The first thing that I want to animate is the logo. And I want it to come to the middle of the screen from down here. So let's animate the logo. So what I do to do this is to click on the arrow icon on the left side of the layer so that we can have access to the transform attributes of this object. And then I also click on the arrow icon on the left of transform so that I can have access to all the transform attributes. Previously, you have seen all these transform attributes and you have learned what these attributes are doing. Now I want to point your attention to the icon on the left side of these attributes that looks like a stopwatch. This is actually called time varies stopwatch, and if we click on it, we are actually activating the ability of this property to change over time. In other words, by clicking on this, we are actually activating the possibility to animate this attribute. So let me go ahead and click on the time varies stopwatch for the position attribute. And as you can see, as soon as I do that, the icon itself turns blue, and then on the left side of the attribute we see this blue diamond. And if you pay attention to the timeline, at the playhead we actually created a keyframe. So if you pay attention here on the timeline, we see this blue diamond, and that diamond actually represents a keyframe. Now we have created one keyframe, and now I want to create another keyframe. So I move the playhead to, let's say, for example, 8 seconds. And then I will bring the mouse cursor over this icon, which is the button that adds or removes keyframe at current time. So if I click on this, as you can see here on the timeline, I have created a new keyframe at the exact time where the playhead is located. So right now we have created two keyframes, one at 6 seconds, the other one at second 8. And something to remember is that if you want to navigate between these two keyframes, you can simply do this by using these two icons. So if I click on this one, go to the next keyframe, as you can see, I will go to the next keyframe immediately. And if I click on this one, go to previous keyframe, of course, that will bring me to the previous keyframe. So these icons are very simple tools for navigating between the keyframes that you have created on the timeline. So right now I am on the first keyframe, and I will go ahead and move the position of, or change the position of the logo on the first keyframe like this. And as you can see now, if I play the video, you will see that the logo moves upwards when I play it. So as you can see here, we have created two keyframes, and then we have defined the position of the object on each one of these keyframes, and the computer automatically calculated the position of the object in between the two, and as a result we see this animation. Now if you want, we can actually test the animation. We can go to the preview panel and click on the play button here and watch the animation in real time. And if you're not happy, for example, with the speed of the motion, we can change that. So right now this movement is actually occurring over a period of 2 seconds, but if we want, we can change that and make it happen over a shorter period of time, and as a result making it happen faster. So let me go ahead, click and hold on the second keyframe, and then drag it and bring it to 7 seconds. And that means that now this action happens over a period of 1 second, and as a result the speed of the motion would be faster because it's happening over a shorter period of time. So if I play the video now, we'll see that the action happens faster than before. This time we actually animated the object's position attribute, but if you want, we can also animate the other attributes and properties of this layer. As a rule of thumb, whenever you see this stopwatch icon on the left side of any properties, that means that that property can actually be animated. So aside from these transform attributes that can be animated, we can also animate different effects that we apply to layers. So now let me go ahead and apply an effect to the logo layer and then animate it. So I select the logo layer, I go to the effect menu, and this time I apply an effect called basic 3D. What this basic 3D effect does is that it allows me to create an illusion of 3D space on this layer. So for instance, if I change the swivel attribute, as you can see, we have this impression that the object is rotating over the y-axis. So what I want to do now is to animate this basic 3D effect. So to do this, I would go here on the timeline and click on the arrow icon on the left side of the effects so that I can have access to the effects properties. And then I will click on the arrow icon on the left of basic 3D, and that will give me access to all the properties of basic 3D effect. And then to animate the swivel attribute, I can just click on this stopwatch on the left of swivel to activate the keyframe and the possibility to animate. And now I bring the playhead to 7 seconds, end of the action, and I click on add keyframe. And then I go back to the previous frame, the previous keyframe, and I change the amount of swivel to, let's say, 90 degrees. And now if I play the animation, as you can see, the object rotates around the y-axis in the animation. Now let us go ahead and also animate the text layer. So I want it actually to appear gradually as this logo appears on the screen. So what I do is that I click over the arrow icons to have access to the transform attributes of the text layer. And then maybe I go to this frame and create a keyframe at this time. And then I move the playhead a bit further and then create another keyframe. And then I go back to the first keyframe and change the opacity attribute to 0% so that we don't see it in the first frame, and we have 100% opacity on the second keyframe. And the result is that when we play the animation, the text layer gradually fades in as we go forward on the timeline. Now let's go ahead and add an effect to the video layer on the background and also animate that effect as well. So I select the video layer, go to the effect menu and go to the color correction and choose tint. The tint effect actually changes the color of the background based on the two colors that you select. So as you can see right now, it has changed the color of the background video throughout the whole time. But what I want to do is to make this happen toward the end of the video. So first of all, let me change the colors here first. Okay, now I have changed the colors of the tint, and to animate it, I will go to the timeline and click on the arrow icon to have access to the tint properties, and then I will click on this stopwatch for the amount to tint. And that actually defines what the percentage of the tint should be. It can be somewhere between 0, which as a result we will have the original file, or it can be 100%, which as a result we will have this kind of tinted image. So in the first frame of the animation, I bring it to 0 because I want it to start from the original image, and then I want it to gradually change into the tinted amount of 100%. And now we can play and watch the whole animation.